Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the Viva Natural Health podcast. If you watched last week's episode, I'm really sorry about the light quality. I only realised how dark it was when I watched back the recording after filming that. So I felt like the content was too good to not redo, and it's still it's still something that you could watch and enjoy and learn from. But I am just getting used to recording on my new camera instead of just using Zoom like I have been for years now. So I promise that it won't be that bad again, and hopefully I've made up for it with this light. I've got my room light on, I've got my ring light on. It's daytime, so I'm pulling out all the stops to make sure that this episode is nice and bright. And in this episode, I'm going to be doing a bit more of a personal one, and this is exactly why I wanted to rebrand the podcast and move it away from Hormones in Harmony to the Viva Natural Health podcast, just because I wanted to start talking about some of these things and share today my story of my spiritual awakening, which I've heard happens. You go through multiple, so I feel like I've been through one or two. And then at the end, I'm going to be sharing 5 signs that you might be going through one as well, although that might be one coming up in your timeline really soon. I do think a lot of people who go through health challenges or a really stressful rock bottom situation often then lead into the spiritual journey. That's exactly what happened with myself. And whether that is religion for you, you might turn to God, you might start praying, or more spiritual in a way of the universe, manifestation, source intelligence, whatever term you want to use, whatever you believe in, that's absolutely fine. But I want to share today what I've experienced, and then at the end of the episode, the signs that you could be currently going through it. Or yeah, there's one maybe on its way, or another one on its way. And for me, I believe in, I'll describe it as a higher power, not necessarily God and Jesus, but I refer to it as the universe. And just to clarify, a spiritual awakening is really a coming back to yourself, your true self, who you are, and it's awareness of a new reality. And yeah, there's several different definitions, but that's how I would sum it up overall. So let's get into my journey. So I was christened, so my mum's side of the family is a bit more religious. She was raised by her grandma, and she was a Christian and would go to church quite often, I think every Sunday when she was a bit younger, and then definitely Easter, and I would go with them sometimes. I was christened. I went to a Church of England school where we would pray and visit church, but I wouldn't say I was religious, and my grandma even never forced it upon us. And I do believe my mum believes in God, and that's fine. But I, as a child, was always told that I was an old soul and that I'd been here before. And I would also be quite intuitive. And I think in my mum's side of the family as well, more generations past my great grandma, but they owned a spiritualist church, and it was actually at the side of my primary school. And I knew someone told me about it, and I realized that my family members worked there and actually built it, and I felt a little bit embarrassed for some reason because I think it was to say that you were a Christian and you believed in God, even though we were at a Church of England school and would visit churches. It just felt a little bit weird. I don't know if that was the case in your situation, but yeah, my mum's side of the family, my maternal lineage, owned and built a spiritualist church. So I would have dreams, and I'd even drawn pictures a few times, and one of them it looked eerily similar to the 9/11 attacks. And I was at nursery at the time, just about to go to school, and my mum had kept the picture, and they obviously didn't know. I can't remember how old I was when that happened. 2001, maybe like 6 or 7, so a good few years after. But it just looked like a weird drawing when I did it because it was meant to be me on holiday in Spain because they asked what we'd been up to. So there were 2 hotels next to each other, and then at the side there were like people just floating around, kind of like they were jumping out the buildings. And then there was all like these little spots and specks that looked like dust and debris. And I said it was snow, even though it's obviously not going to snow in Spain, and it was a summer holiday. And there was like an ambulance at the bottom of the picture as well. So yeah, really weird. And then a few years after 9/11, my mum said, because she'd hung the picture on the wall, before that, it actually fell off and smashed on the anniversary of 9/11. So pretty creepy. So I think she's really into art, and I think I just stopped drawing after that because I was a little bit scared. And even with my spiritual side then, my intuitive side, I don't have any memories of it, but I must have said something one time and people looked at me a bit weird because it just felt like I suppressed and shut all of that stuff down. Especially when you're a teenager, you don't want to be seen as different and weird. So I was just like mixing in with the crowd and not drawing attention to myself. And I probably shoved things down for the next 10 to 15 years. And it really was my health crisis that brought all of this up to the surface and really led me to my spiritual awakening. And it was a bit of a drawn out experience. It wasn't just like one day I woke up and I saw the world differently. Um, it has actually deepened in the past year. So even though this happened when I was about 20, the health crisis, it wasn't an overnight thing. So when I was struggling with my health, my hormones, chronic fatigue, chronic pain, food sensitivities, depression, anxiety, all of that. If you follow my story, you'll know the laundry list of issues that I was dealing with. But I would start to ask for signs, and I was really just grasping at straws at that point. I just was so desperate to heal, and I was doing all of my research on the physical body, but then I started to my mum would tell me like this is all happening for a reason, but then I started to turn to things like inspirational quotes and books, things like The Power of Now and The Four Agreements that are a bit spiritual, and I've read them multiple times since that point. And I was spending a lot of time on my own because it was my physical symptoms holding me back, but then yeah, I just didn't feel like socializing as well. I just wanted to hide myself away from the world and try to heal. But I now know you can heal and actually still integrate with society. But it was at a time that I was, I'd left school and it wasn't really seeing my friends often. I was just working part-time. So there wasn't a need for me to go out and about on a regular basis. So as challenging as it was at the time, and even for me as an introvert who loves my own time, it was really difficult, but it was also extremely necessary for me to get to know myself on a deeper level and go into this hibernation state that I did. And I was struggling with my mental health, as you can imagine, because of my poor physical health, but also the isolation, the acne that I was dealing with. And I think I watched The Secret, which is a documentary. They have a book as well. And yeah, just filling my social media and my camera roll on my iPhone with positive quotes that I'd find on Instagram. And I did start to feel like there was something higher out there guiding my journey. And that did reduce a lot of stress in me, just knowing that it wasn't all down to me. There was this co-creation process that was happening and something that was supporting and guiding me. And I also started to do yoga at that point because it was really one of the only forms of workout and movement that I could do with my energy, my blood pressure, and everything being so bad. So that can be for some people another introduction, a gateway into the spiritual world because they do forms of breath work, they can do things like chanting. Some people radically change their diet and lifestyle as well. They can go vegetarian. I tried that and failed. And yoga definitely served me for a while. It's not my form of exercise now that I can actually do more. But it served me to just understand the importance of stillness and surrender and the discomfort of a hip opening pose, which I also started to get these weird. I thought they were weird at the time. Now I totally understand what's happening, but I'd be laying shavasana at the end, they call it the corpse pose, just to rest, and I just start crying. Nothing had happened, and it wasn't a particularly bad day, but I'd just be in tears, and I'd be trying to hide myself and not let other people see. Or I'd do the hip opening poses like pigeon pose. Now I know there's a lot of stress and trauma and energy stored in the hips, so I was opening that up and releasing, and it's quite a common experience. I now know that people can end the class in floods of tears, but I just thought I was a weirdo and was having a mental breakdown. But things were starting to shift at that point. And because of my health struggles with my skin, food sensitivities, pain, I really developed a deeper appreciation for life because I couldn't really do what I wanted to do for a long time. Even people just showing kindness, a little walk in the park, a healthy home cooked meal. And yeah, I couldn't at one point tolerate more than 10 foods. So I was just on this routine schedule every day, taking my supplements, doing my detox practices, eating the same foods on rotation, and it wasn't really me living my life. So when things did start to improve, I couldn't not have this major shift in my mindset where I was just so happy to be able to eat these foods again. And even just putting a few herbs and spices on my meal, it felt like I I was just so grateful to have a bit of flavor. And I knew that my purpose on earth then was to help other people with their health. And before that, I think I was kind of asking for signs what I should be doing because I had some friends who knew from being small that they wanted to do XYZ career, and I just didn't really know. So this answered my prayers, and it was a rough ride, but yeah, I knew that I wanted to help people, and that's when I went to study at college. I was starting to get a few more answers for myself and my health, and I just felt the pull to start my business and put myself out there. Despite my social anxiety, low confidence, I actually couldn't stop myself. And uh, there were points I definitely crash afterwards because I just pushed myself too hard. But I somehow found the inspiration and motivation to get things done, even though I wasn't feeling well. So this shows the power of having purpose. It really does give you an increase of energy and drive. And that's something that I ask my clients quite commonly on their initial intake forms. I'll ask them a few deep questions. Did you have a happy childhood? Do you feel like your life has meaning and purpose? And it can tell me a lot about those people who say, yes, they have a meaning and purpose in their life. If it's a passion, maybe they can't get to it just yet, but they know it's on the cards for them, or they have a family, they have children, and that's their purpose in life. Because they have something on their minds to work towards, they often heal faster. Just my observation. So I would use over the years things like visualization, gratitude journaling. I had the 5 minute gratitude journal, which I know is still popular now. I did some meditations, I did some tapping in the early stages, and then it kind of went away for a while and re-emerged in my life 2 years ago. And all that I visualized, all that I was manifesting, I didn't know that I was purposely manifesting at the time, but that all has come to fruition. I would have a section on love life, and I'd have a section on career. I'd have a section just like a mind movie about my health. And yeah, it all came to fruition. It took a bit of time and it came in a different way that I would expected, but that usually is the case. So these are all powerful tools, and I started to learn more about the subconscious mind, energy healing, the importance of your frequency and vibration, the universal laws, which includes the law of attraction, way more in depth the past few years, when my health turned another corner, and I'd moved at that point. I was detoxing, and I felt healed at that point because I do feel like you need a level of physical health to be able to really have a clear mind, have a more positive outlook on life, to be able to tap into your intuition and hear these messages and downloads. So you need to nourish and physically look after your vessel, your physical body. But that said, some people do have amazing, profound experiences and transformations just from something like meditation. Maybe they've not changed their diet or lifestyle at all, and they're not really taking care of their body. So it is possible. If you look at Joe Dispenza's work, for example, all through prayer and faith. So it could happen, but I just think for the best results, you want to do both. You want to support your physical body and eat right and reduce toxins, work on your sleep, but also at the same time use some of these things I mentioned to speed up the results. So it was a few years of trying a few things and mainly focusing on my physical body, but sprinkling in a few little habits here and there. And I was seeing progress. But then last year, it was really a pivotal year and a big turning point. And that's when I started a more consistent evening and morning routine. I was tapping pretty much daily. I was doing more hypnosis and subconscious reprogramming. I even tried breath work again, which I'd tried years prior, and I really just didn't think it was for me because I just think it was too intense, the type that I was doing at the time. And it was also online, it wasn't in person, and I didn't know that it was normal to feel a little bit lightheaded and tingly. So I just thought my body was telling me to stop. But I tried it again, and the one that I usually do is called 90 Breathwork. That's the name of the company. And I think they're pretty worldwide, but the studio that I go to is in Eccles, so near Manchester, in Manchester, and I go to Transcend Studios. There's an amazing teacher there called Nicola, and she does this 9D breath work, and it incorporates subliminals and hypnosis and things into the sessions. And I've had profound experiences. There was a few weeks where I just had this tight chest, and I was trying all the things, and I just think it was anxiety looking back. And the first time I went back to breath work, it got rid of it after the session. So I was like, I'm onto something, I'm going to keep doing this. And then she's had longer 90-minute experiences, and yeah, I've just felt like it was in another dimension. So I need to go back. I've slipped off it a little bit. I've been into some different classes, but breathwork for me has been a big thing. And yeah, at the start, I think the anxiety was linked to me stressing about the future a lot and just how it's all going to play out. For some reason, last year I was just might have been my sister-in-law giving birth and having my little niece now, and she's gone back to work, and my niece is in childcare, so it's probably something to do with that. But for some reason, at the start of last year, 2024, I just could not get my brain to shut up about the future, motherhood, navigating the business, what's going to happen with my health at that phase of life. It was just this continuous spiral, this monkey mind chatter in my brain. You might have even noticed on the podcast when it was Hormones in Harmony, if I'd have a female guest on and she was a mum, I'd be asking her, or I'd ask her after we'd finish recording, so what do you do about childcare and this and that? How long do you recommend having off for maternity leave? I'd be asking different practitioners, I'd get advice from friends, and there just seemed to be a big shift. And I even just realized that I'd stopped thinking about it. So it just was this big shift. And then I was like, oh, I actually haven't thought about that. I haven't worried about that in a while. Should I worry about it? And I'm like, no, we're going to be good. And I really have this trust and faith now in the process, in the universe, in the timeline. Good time is really a concept, it's an illusion. And yeah, we can have these quantum leaps, quantum jumps. From ages 20 to 25, I feel like I didn't really progress in life, and I felt very far behind and left out. Some of my friends were getting engaged and having kids and traveling the world, and I was just stuck at home every weekend with my parents. But then from age 25 to 30, I felt like I went through this quantum leap where I achieved everything and more what I had planned in a shorter amount of time. And in some ways, not that there's these goals that we need to reach, but in some ways I feel like I'm further ahead than some people. They might have had a better start to the 20s, but the last few years have been terrible. You're never going to know. I just want to check, are you addressing the healing foundations? Not sure what I mean. Well, these are the important factors that I believe that you need to address in order to be in optimal health and overcome your stubborn health issues and symptoms, whether that's chronic digestive issues, acne, hair loss, period problems, weight gain, anxiety, fatigue. I could go on. Because I want as many of you as possible to have this life-changing information, I've bundled together 6 of my juiciest and info-packed masterclasses priced at just £111. Not only are you getting these recordings, which are between 60 and 90 minutes long each, on the following subjects: the power of the subconscious mind, stress, trauma, and the nervous system, supporting your female menstrual cycle, mastering your metabolism, optimizing sleep, gut health and detox. You're also going to receive my healthy groceries shopping list and my favorite non-toxic products guide, which are both usually reserved for my one-to-one clients. Whether you're brand new to the holistic healing world or you've been trying to work on things for a while but feel stuck, I can guarantee there's something within this content that will help you to understand your next steps and what you're missing. Sometimes it's something so foundational that's being overlooked. Get instant access to the Foundations bundle today for just £111 by clicking the link in the episode show notes, and I can't wait to hear about what you've learned. Grab your pen and paper to make notes and get started today. So, in terms of astrological shifts, it does link up to my Saturn return, so maybe that is playing a role as well. I think I went through that about age 27 to 29. And then I used the Pattern app on my iPhone, and I swear by it. I've got my friends on it as well, and they love it. It's free. I use the free version anyway, and it's based on your birth chart. So you ideally want to know your birth time, obviously birthplace and dates. And mine is just insanely accurate. When I look at relationships between my friends and me, and my boyfriend and me, and my family members, it's always spot on, at least in my life. And that was saying from about mid 2023 to the end of 2024. Apparently, I was going through this big shift astrologically, and it meant that the title of it was softening and opening up. And for almost the entire time, up until the last 3 months of 2024, I was like, I don't really know what this means. And I'd been talking about getting more into my feminine. I was like, maybe it's that, but I was just finding it a little bit hard to do so until the last quarter of the year. And then exactly when that ended, I felt it. I felt like I changed to the day. Like I woke up the next day and I knew it was coming, but I kind of forgot the exact date that it said it was ending this astrological pattern. And yeah, it wasn't for me going on the entire time, so it can happen within that time period. So it was like an 18-month window, and mine happened right at the end of that. So it all coincides with turning 30, something going on in the stars, based on my birth chart, maybe the Saturn return. And then another thing that happened last year, which I think was quite significant, was the retreat that I went on. And I just knew that I wanted to go on a solo trip because the year before that, 2023 or 2022, can't remember, I went to Madeira on my own. And that was quite a significant time because I felt like that's when I was really starting to heal. And I went on this trip. I'd just been through a breakup earlier in the year, and I was like, I'm still going on holiday. And I just had the best time. It was literally perfect holiday. Proved to myself that I could do things like that. And I went canyoning and I went hiking and just, yeah, had the best time. Ate all my favorite foods. I was having dessert at every meal. So I was like, I want to start going on a solo trip, ideally once a year. And there was this retreat, and I just felt called to it because my intuition has really started to switch back on as well. We'll talk about intuition towards the end because that could be a really good sign when that starts to turn on, and you can strengthen that you are deepening into your spirituality. And the retreat was, I've done a podcast episode on it before, but it was held by Alexandria Maria, who I don't think's hosting anymore for the foreseeable, but it was really great and I'm really glad that I went on it. And it just shows you have to, despite however much it cost, because it was pretty pricey, it was several £1,000s that I could have saved or used elsewhere, but I just knew that that was the right trip for me. The dates lined up perfectly, and it was a manifestation retreat, but it ended up being a bit more spiritual than that. And there were a lot of elements like deep meditations, silent practices, forgiveness prayers. And if you listen to the highlight episode where I shared my experience, I cried pretty much the entire trip. And that was really strange for me because I'd grown up thinking that we should suppress our emotions. And I remember I have one of my earliest memories is being at my granddad's funeral, so my dad's dad. And I must have been about 4 at the time. And I didn't really know what was going on, but everyone around me was crying. And I thought, oh, this is weird. Like I'm the only one who's not crying. And I felt a little bit like good about it. I was like, oh, even my dad's crying. I've never seen him cry before. And then just as I got a bit older, I didn't want people to see me as weak like we do. And if something if there was like a sad movie on, I would purposely like grit my teeth and not cry. And then my mum would say like, "Oh, you really don't cry. Even your brother's more emotional than you are." And then it just became this identity thing. And I probably shut down some of the emotion and vulnerability in my body, because yeah, there were times I actually didn't feel sad, and especially when I had depression, you just are completely numbed out anyway. But then on this trip, from the very first opening ceremony, we were just all sat in the yogashala at the top of this amazing hill, gorgeous views. We'd literally just got there, and she put on the music, and she's like, "We're just going to do an opening intention," and I just started crying from the music. And yeah, just pretty much every day since that, on the retreat, I was crying at anything and everything. It was also syncing up with my menstrual cycle, but I think my body was just like releasing, and especially around other people, that was something that I just did not enjoy doing. It felt horrible to be vulnerable in front of others, but that was really opening up my heart, I think. We also used tarot cards, and she did a really cool exercise where she asked us to pull a card, and then we were to think intuitively what the message was going to be. So I pulled one, and I've got a picture on my phone. It was a woman who was in the center, and she was just surrounded by all of these beings. And the message that came up to me was that I am protected and I'm safe, and it's okay to ask for help and have a community around you, and that I'm completely supported and guided. Because another thing that was still when I was stressing about motherhood and everything, and I was thinking, what's it going to be like? And I've got my mum and Luke's family to help, but what if I need extra support? Because I know that it's important to have a village to raise a child and childcare and all of these things. So I was framing it in that way, but then when she actually gave us the definition for the card that comes with the little book, it said something about my spirit team is waiting for me to ask them for guidance. So it's like, we're here, we're ready to go, please just call on us for help. And that was definitely a message that I needed. And that's when I was like, oh, am I becoming a spiritual girly now? Because for me, before that, it was more about mindset and personal development. And then on that trip, I started to, yes, hear about angel guides, spirit guides, messages from birds, and some of the women there were just like very spiritual. So I started to see that it's not all about just like manifesting and this and that. It can be, yeah, these deeper practices. So yeah, that trip was just absolutely amazing, and I actually won. So I pretty much got my money back in a way from that retreat. So even though it was an investment, I received the money back in terms of winning a competition. So one of the ladies, Liz, who was an attendee, she's an author for Hay House, the publishing company. And when we got back, she was doing a book, not a book giveaway, like a giveaway for someone who enters provides a review. What am I trying to say? Who provides a review for her book. So I bought the book, read it, left her a review on Amazon, and then I was one of the top winners who won access to her Spiritual Coaching Academy course, which I would have actually started last week when you're listening to this, the Wednesday the 15th of January. So that's a several £1,000 prize, I think, about 3,000, and the retreat was about 3,000 as well. So that is a perfect fit. That's another benefit of me following my gut, and now I can deepen my skills even further. So we shall see what comes of that. I'm really looking forward to it. And after that trip, there was a couple of weeks which she said can happen because you were letting go of your past self, and I was really letting go of my chronic illness phase and my old identity and my old um, behaviors of playing small and social embarrassment and all of that stuff, and stepping into this new version of yourself. But when I got back for a couple of weeks, I was like, why do I not feel good? Why am I not keeping this high vibe energy? Everything was feeling stressful and weird. But then as the months went by, I just really felt different. I felt calmer. I felt more confident in myself, more clear on what I want my life to look like, but also okay with things going differently. Because some of the best things looking back that have ever happened to me were unexpected. And it's okay for me to let go of control sometimes. I've been in control for so long, and it's got me some beneficial things, but letting go of control is just surrendering, and you can often receive some of the greatest blessings when you just let the universe take over. And I have so much proof now that I am safe, I'm going to be okay, I'm protected financially, I'm guided in life by the universe for my higher greatest good. I now see triggers and challenges as opportunities to grow from and learn more about myself. Just a different way of viewing life. And now I literally can't imagine my life without morning routines and gratitude practice and allowing myself to rest because it's just who I am. And don't get me wrong, I'm definitely not perfect at this and it's a continuous practice. But when I see the results and how much happier and healthier I am, it is so worth it. And it sounds silly that even over Christmas and New Year, recently I took 2 full weeks off, and I've never done that before. I rested a lot. I did a lot of mindset work, a lot of self-care during that time. I didn't just veg out in front of the TV for 2 weeks straight, but there were also moments that I did watch a movie and just be unproductive. So it was a nice, perfect balance, and that is going to be a non-negotiable every year moving forward. So yeah, the last part from probably September when I turned 30 to December really just felt a shift. Had some amazing things happen, had a lovely Christmas, and since the beginning of the year, I just feel, yeah, really great and excited for a full year of living in this more spiritual way. So, let's now cover the 5 main signs that you might be going through a spiritual awakening, or there is one on the horizon as well, so you can look forward to it. So, number one is that you have a deep desire for purpose and meaning in your life. You might be growing a dissatisfaction with surface level conversations, aspects of life, such as material success, societal expectations. You might even start asking questions like, why am I here? What's my true purpose? I had a client who went through a health transformation with me and she realized that she wasn't happy in her marriage anymore and she's divorced. Others get the urge to start their dream business, whether it's an Etsy shop or open up a cafe. Joe Dispenza talks about how your 3D reality, so the 3 dimension, is the material world. And this is what we primarily focus on: people, places, things, and we can only experience that using our senses: sight, touch, taste, etc. Whereas the 5D quantum field is made up of energy, light, frequency, vibration, and we don't need our senses to experience that. We need to disconnect from ourselves and start to pay attention more to that world. We can still live in the 3D, obviously, and we need to be grounded, but when we start tapping into our frequency and this other dimension, then you can achieve miraculous things. That's where a lot of healing takes place. So yeah, look into Joe Dispenza's work. If you haven't already, that's one of the things that I did over Christmas is watch his Rewired series on Gaia. Gaia's like the spiritual Netflix. They have a 7-day free trial, so I blasted through the series and it ended up being free. And speaking of Joe Dispenza, I manifested a trip to go and see Joe Dispenza in Switzerland at the end of February, which I still can't get over. And I will share the full story soon, and I will record a podcast episode with my thoughts, the experience, what happened. So that is all to come probably in March time. But yeah, I'm going to a Joe Dispenza conference, a 3-day event, and I can't believe it. And I'm so excited. Just shows when you're in alignment, good things happen, good things come your way. Number 2, sign that you have maybe impacting your spiritual journey is that you have heightened self-awareness. You probably become more attuned to your thoughts, your emotions, patterns of behavior. You realize that you're the thinker of your thoughts. You're not the thoughts themselves. You notice old beliefs or habits that no longer serve you. You feel drawn to align your actions with your authentic self. So you start doing things that you actually want to do. If you want to start a dance class, or you want to get back into cooking, or take up a belly dancing class, whatever it is, it's like, no, I want to do this. And some of this does come with age, just not really giving a damn about what other people think anymore. And it can take practice and repetition to change this sometimes because pathways can be so hardwired. But awareness is the first step to change. Some people get to this point through therapy. They start to understand the behaviors more. And I feel like talk therapy can be limited with actually getting past that and actually releasing the trauma and energy out of the body. And that's where somatic therapy can come in. But yeah, let's not get in a tangent with that. Number three is that you might have an increased sensitivity. So I was like physically sensitive to a lot of different things. And I feel like when you're an empath or you are a bit more spiritually gifted, you can have a heightened sense of sensitivity. And some people might be somewhere on the spectrum. Some people might just be very reactive to foods and supplements. Um, you can also just be more drawn to animals, nature, certain people. For me, getting a dog was one of the best things that I've ever done. I did a reel on this recently for my physical and mental health because he needs to go out 1 to 2 times a day, even when it's absolutely pouring down with rain. And just the way that they're so unconditional with their love, they find joy in the smallest thing, and they really just help to bring you back into the present moment. So if I've been on a Zoom call for 2 hours and I go downstairs for a little break and he just wants to cuddle and play and we'll just lay there and yeah, it's just the most lovely feeling and he grounds me so much. You might also experience heightened intuition or empathy, as well as a stronger awareness of energy, both your own and other people. This might mean you're less inclined to go on nights out or busy cities or events because you pick up on energy and it can leave you feeling drained. Or you might start to realize that friend you spend a lot of time with is quite toxic and every interaction just leaves you feeling negative. The sensitivity can calm down though, so and it also doesn't affect everyone. So don't worry if you're very extroverted and you love socializing, you don't necessarily have to stop. So just bear that in mind. But if you are that way, it doesn't mean that you're broken and you're weird and it can actually be a sign that you're on your spiritual path. Number four is letting go of the old relationships, careers, hobbies that no longer align with your evolving self, they might start to fall away. And while this can feel painful, you can also sense that it's creating space for new, more aligned opportunities. You have to let go of the old to welcome in the new. This can be platonic or romantic relationships. Like I said, it can be something relating to your job, where you live, even your appearance. Some people change up their wardrobe or dramatically change their hairstyle and it can really change them as a person. I've heard the hair can hold on to trauma and emotions, and so many people have said when they've cut off super long hair and it can just feel like a total reset and they feel like a different person afterwards. So there's that. And number five is a desire to explore spiritual practices. You might feel drawn to meditation, journaling, breath work. You might read a book and that sparks this path. Someone might refer you to a class. You might be more curious about the subconscious mind, universal energy. Even you might experience synchronicities or signs that seem too meaningful to be coincidences, like angel numbers. You keep seeing the same animals over and over again, or you experience deja vu really commonly. I was seeing 111 or 1111 since high school before any of this started, and I had no idea what it was for the longest time. I thought it was pretty creepy and it was a bit annoying because I would honestly see it everywhere, every day. But that is my sign now. I still see it, and it's showing that I'm in alignment and I'm being guided. And I've also asked for signs before, so I think I've shared this story in the podcast, but you can also have a yes or no question and ask for a sign. So I did it once. I can't remember what the question was, but if it was a yes, I asked for an anchor. And I was imagining like a cartoon anchor like from a ship. And I said, within 48 hours, if it's a yes, please show me an anchor. And then I went about, I just detached, kind of forgot about it, and then went on with my day. And then it wasn't until almost the cutoff point of the 48 hours, I was out on a walk and I just thought, oh, it's been almost 2 days and I've not seen this anchor, so it must be a no. And as I thought that in my headphones, I was listening to a podcast, the host said anchor about 3 times in the same sentence. They were talking about breath work, I think, or mindset and just finding an anchor. And they were it was in a different way than I originally thought because I wasn't super specific. I just said anchor. But that was my yes. And I think it was how it was meant to be. But yeah, they said like anchor this thought and anchor your breath. And I was like, oh my God, I'm scary. I'm creepy. And some people, like I said, start with yoga, then get into meditation, or your friend invites you to a sauna bath and they have this profound experience, or they say, I've never felt deep relaxation like this before, and they get hooked and they want to explore more. That might be how it happens. I just think developing my spiritual connection, which by the way is available to everyone, has enhanced my life in so many ways. Even if you think I'm a crazy person and you don't believe in anything that I just said, I honestly do not care. And I won't try and argue with you because I don't need you to believe it. And it's not going to stop me believing what I know for myself. But if you're sensing you're heading down this route, or maybe you're in the initial stages where it can sometimes feel like you're crumbling, things are falling apart, you're hitting rock bottom, just know that things can only go up from there, and you're likely about to head into a deeply transformational phase of your life. And with hindsight, you'll be able to see how everything worked out for your greater good and in divine timing. Thank you for listening. If you have any questions, please let me know. Send me a message over on Instagram at Viva Natural Health. And I'd love to hear from you if you're enjoying this new version of the podcast. And if you haven't already, please leave me a rating and review. It only takes 2 minutes. So I'll see you back here next week for the next episode.